Welcome to Thinking About Imam Ali. I want to pose a question for us. And the question is, when did Ali become Imam Ali? Was the imamate there from the very beginning, or was it something which came upon him later? Let's start by just thinking about me. Now, my name is Chris. I am a human being. I was always a human being. But I'm also a teacher. Now, there was a time before I was a teacher. Now, some people, we say, well, they were born as a teacher. It was their natural gift to be a teacher. And yet, nevertheless, they grow into that ability, into that fulfillment, into that function of being a teacher. Now, let's move on from thinking about me to think instead about Mary, the mother of Jesus. Now, Mary, we are told in the Quran, was dedicated to the service of the temple from the time that she was in her mother's womb. So it was always part of her destiny to be a temple servant, to be chosen by God for a most particular practice, a most particular service, to be the mother of Jesus. And so from the moment of her birth, that was her destiny and that was her fulfillment. Mary, of course, grows up as a child. She goes to the temple. She grows in wisdom and piety. She guards her chastity. So all the time, her awareness of the function, the role that God has given her is growing within her. Now, of course, when the angel Gabriel comes to her, it's still, wow, it's something very special. But her whole inner makeup has already been built in such a way that she is ready to accept that challenge and to become the virgin mother of the prophet Jesus. Now, when we're thinking about the prophet Muhammad, in sheer understanding, the prophet is the prophet from the very moment of his birth. And throughout the early part of his life, he is constantly being formed into the person who will eventually receive the revelation from God. So we can see that prophethood is not something that comes upon him. It's not something that is a strange thing that happens, but rather it is the fulfillment of his nature. When the Quran is first revealed to him, it isn't something which is a complete surprise. It isn't something which he says, what is happening? He's not confused. But instead, he is assured that this is what he was born for. This was his nature. This is why he was put upon this earth, to be the prophet of God, to be the recipient of that message, and then to pass it on to the world. So we can see that the prophet is actually the prophet from the very moment of his birth, and then that prophecy is fulfilled, and then he lives that prophetic life. Now, we can see this very clearly in the life of the prophet Jesus, because we're told that after Mary has given birth to him, she is told to take him back to her people and to lay him in a crib, and then we're told that he proclaims his nature from that crib. He says, I am a prophet sent by God. He has taught me the old message and the new. Peace be upon me on the day of my birth, on the day of my death, and on the day of my rising again. So we see then he is born into that prophetic role. Now, when we're coming to think about Imam Ali, we're thinking in the same sort of way. Born to be the Imam. That was his nature from the very beginning. Just as we say that The prophet has the light of prophecy within him, and we see that exemplified in the life of Jesus from the very moment of his birth. So it is with every prophet. So all the way down through human history, from the prophet Adam and finally to the prophet Muhammad, this light of prophethood is, as it were, moving from one to the other, going down through human history. But it's always the same light of prophethood which was created by God and given to that line of prophets. Now, in the same way, the light of imamate was created by God and was passed on down through all the imams of human history until it finally culminates in the 12 imams of the Ahl al-Bayt. This light of imamate that we're talking about with Imam Ali is an inner light of clarity and perception, of guidance and wisdom, which is given to him by God in order that he can fulfill this role of imamate. When Ali is a small baby, he is Imam Ali. But as he grows through his life, his awareness that he is the Imam, that he is to be the successor of the Prophet, that he is to be the infallible guide of his people, grows upon him, and so he becomes more and more aware of what he really is and what he always was from the very beginning. That is, that he is called to the role of imamate. So as we look through his life and we trace the events of his life, we see that from time to time to time, he comes more and more aware. It's as though a new chapter is opened up before him, and this chapter is an increase in his knowledge and awareness so that he is prepared to follow on from the next chapter which comes after. And the whole of the Prophet's life is going from one chapter to the next, until finally, when the Prophet dies, he enters then into that life of the imamate for which he was born, for which he was put upon this earth. This gift of imamate, this light that he bore, was of course not to end with Imam Ali. It is the light of imamate which is to be passed down through all the other imams of the Ahl al-Bayt. So it's important for us to remember that when we're talking about Imam Ali and about the way that he was born and the way that his awareness of his function and nature and role develops and expands throughout his life, we can say the very same thing about all the other imams also. They also are born to be the imam, they are born as the imam, but their awareness of that imamate is constantly growing and developing throughout their life. And it's as though that light of imamate goes from one to the next, and then it grows brighter during the time that the previous imam has died and passed on that duty, that responsibility to the next imam into their lifetime, until it finally comes to rest with Imam al-Mahdi, and then we will see at the end of time that light in its full brightness, in its full reality, as he then fulfills the function of imamate upon the earth at the end of time.